Rome undergoes two very fundamental changes in its history. One, we discussed the other day, is its transformation from a republic to an empire, is its transformation from a polytheistic society to a monotheistic society, specifically its adoption of Christianity. Here are today's vocabulary words. You see there's a definition, a place, a name, a item that you need to know, a name, and then another name of a document that I'd like you to know. We're going to jump right into the first two, and that is polytheism and monotheism. You ought to remember these from a couple chapters ago, but just in case you don't, polytheism is the belief in many gods. Monotheism is the belief in one God. And the Romans, like I said, are going to transform from one to another. So they start off as a polytheistic society. The gods they worship look a lot like the gods that the Greeks worshipped. Instead of Zeus, you had Jupiter, but you can see sort of he looks a lot like Zeus. He controlled the weather. This is the god Neptune, the god of the sea. This is Venus. Hopefully you'll recognize these names because the planets are named after these Roman gods. In addition to that, Augustus begins the tradition of proclaiming that each of the emperors upon their death become gods. So this is a Roman picture here of Julius Caesar on the left and Augustus on the right, and they have these things over their head that's supposed to show that they have died at this point, so they've become gods. So the official line of the Roman religion is there are many gods, and that the emperors themselves become gods when they pass away. And this Augustus and emperors after him feel is important to create obedience in the people. Meanwhile, we shift our focus to a province of Rome called Judea. It's right over here. This is the frontier of the Roman Empire. This is sort of the wild, wild west, except it's the east. And at the time that Christianity is going to start over here, there's just widespread political unrest in the region as well. There's some dissatisfaction with Rome in this little corner right here. There are some rebels. And that will somewhat affect the Roman reaction to Christianity as it rises up. This slide speaks for itself. So Jesus is a Jewish carpenter in the province of Judea. He gains some followers. He's viewed as a potential revolutionary by Roman authorities who executed him. And there are a couple different reasons that he's executed. One is, again, there's unrest in the region in general, so the Roman soldiers there are sort of on the lookout for revolutionaries. They're a little, sensitive at that point. And also, they're concerned with the fact that this guy is getting popular and that he's so adamant that there's only one God. The Romans were pretty tolerant of other religions as long as those religions sort of also accepted the Roman gods and also, sort of agreed, oh yeah, your emperors are gods too. So they were sort of agitated by the fact that this guy was so adamant in saying that no, Augustus and Julius Caesar and all of them are not gods. They didn't like that. Following the death of Jesus when he's around 33, the movement begins to spread. What kind of things did he teach? There's an actor portraying him. He taught that the inner self was greater than the law, and that the meek shall inherit the earth. In other words, that good things will happen to people who aren't boastful, who are just sort of meek. And that, treating people nicely, you should treat people the way that, you want to be treated, that kind of thing. That's sort of his general message. And I like this graph right here because this just contrasts that with the kind of things that are taught in the Roman religion, okay? So in this new religion, the idea was that nonviolence would bring justice, and that through justice, there will be peace. In the Roman ideology, the idea was, it was sort of a center on violence and war. You defeat your enemies, and defeating your enemies leads to victory, and that is what brings about peace. That peace is brought about through conquering your enemies, whereas this new religion is teaching that, being good and being good to people, that's the way to get ahead. And that's the way to achieve peace. The method of Jesus' execution is he's crucified, and that's where this symbol of the cross comes from that you've probably seen before. After he dies, the Christianity spreads at first as a kind of Judaism. Remember that Jesus himself is a Jewish person, and at first Christianity is just sort of a part of Judaism, but it becomes its own religion. And one of the historical figures most responsible for spreading it is this guy, Paul. So when Christianity begins, it's just down here, but then Paul, who's a Roman citizen, he converts and he makes it his life work to spread it to all these different towns. So you can see here his travels. He goes all throughout Turkey and all throughout Greece, and he goes from town to town to town, spreading Christianity, converting town after town after town. And after he leaves these towns, what he does, and you can see it here, is he'll write letters back to the towns that he's left, telling them, how they should be good Christians and how they should live their lives. And those letters, along with several accounts of the life of Jesus, those become the New Testament, and that is the Christian Bible. So that's the New Testament right here. The New Testament is an accumulation of books, some of which talk about the life of Jesus, others of which are letters from this guy to different towns saying, hey, this is the way to live. So Christianity starts off as a small religion, it's spreading, it's getting bigger, and at first the Roman reaction to it, the Roman government's reaction to it is unkind. As I said earlier, they've usually would have tolerated other religions, but this one in specific, because of its denunciation of the emperors and their role as gods, it doesn't like them, so they are persecuted in the early years. They're put into the arenas, against lions and stuff like that. They're killed in large numbers at first. The persecution, though, doesn't dissuade people from adopting the religion. In fact, more and more people start adopting it, so it starts getting more and more popular. And then the Emperor Constantine comes along, and that was one of those names that I wanted you to write down in the beginning. The Emperor Constantine proclaims in the Edict of Milan, he declares official tolerance of Christianity. Constantine himself was the first Christian emperor of Rome, and he ends the persecution of the Christians. In fact, again, he becomes a Christian himself. He's the first to convert over there. He does other political things. He's a very important figure, but we'll talk more about his political things yet tomorrow. And historically, it's just shortly after that Christianity actually becomes Rome's official religion. So Christianity has gone from a persecuted religion to now the official religion of the Roman Empire, and from that day to the end of the Roman Empire, the church and the state become very intertwined. The church institutions that Rome sets up actually end up outliving the Roman Empire and are still with us today. The Roman Catholic Church is called the Roman Catholic Church because it was the official church of Rome. And again, just to drive home the point of how far the religion spreads, again, it starts down here, and those sort of deep pink areas are the first areas to get a lot of Christian converts, but then by 600, all of these areas are mainly Christian areas. So that's the story, not only of how Rome became Christian, but just in general about how Christianity began. I think we got to all of our words over here. Thanks for listening.